So take me back a little bit before college, because you grew up in California?
Yeah, San Diego, California.
San Diego, California.
Yeah.
And your parents were in ministry
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah, pretty much my entire life. My parents have been pastoring a church in San Diego, California. We're originally from just south of the border, so in Mexico.
So then growing up, church life would have been a bit different for you then than it is now.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was a smaller community and Hispanic, so it was a Spanish church.
¿Hablas
And-
mucho español o no?
No mucho, un poco. Sé dónde está el baño.
Yeah.
Tacos, por favor.
¿Dónde estoy?
But I love that upbringing and I love that context because it showed me that ministry is hard work,
Right.
and that it's not something you do part-time. Like, my parents were all in. That's all I ever saw. Never missed a Sunday. You know, if you're sick, great, come, Jesus will heal you.
Amen.
Amen. So it was like high commitment.
Yeah.
And so it started off as a have to, but now it's like, it's just become a want to for
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do, like, every day.
So then coming to like Hillsong College and just kind of the Hillsong environment, was that a big shift? Was that a small shift? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I don't think it was a massive shift because something about Hillsong, even from a distance, just resonated with me.
Yeah, right.
I love that Pastor Brian was a big thinker,
Yeah.
and I hadn't really seen that. I hadn't experienced that within church context.
Right.
Someone that just dreamed big and thought big, and someone who you just saw their world get bigger, and you know, his family and everything. So
Yeah.
something about that resonated with me.
So the kind of the church culture overall wasn't too much of a shift. The college journey though, were there any surprises for you in that season, in that early season? Like good or bad, you know, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't expect this one to come about.
Well, like besides going grocery shopping for the first time in my life and eating a cheese sandwich for a month straight, because that's all I knew how to cook.
Your mom didn't teach you how to cook?
No,
No.
like,
Latino mothers, man.
yeah,
They just take care of you.
they just take care of you.
So you've been at Maryland's from the beginning of your college journey, and then the
Yeah.
early days of actually being the campus pastor for Maryland's.
Yeah.
What were those years like?
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. And I remember Carly and I got asked to be the service pastors of one of the services at the location. And so we did that for about a year. And then the pastor at the time, Chris Mendez, he messaged us. We had lunch with him, and he's like, hey, would you guys consider taking on the location? We said yes to whatever our church asked of us. So then the follow-up conversation was, it's as a volunteer. And I'm like,
That came after.
yeah, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And so I did the first year as the location pastor as a volunteer. And at the time, a friend had
So it was a full-time volunteer.
yeah,
You're looking after a location.
yeah. And a friend owned a florist. While I was in a van delivering flowers, I was, one, practicing my Spanish, because one of the services was in Spanish.
Yeah.
So I would listen to like Spanish music. and Spanish
Elvis
preachers.
Crespo,
Yeah.
La Máquina.
And so I did that and kind of prepared messages while I was driving around the city
Right.
and making phone calls to volunteers and just kind of made it work. I remember that like on Mother's Day, which is a big day for the florist industry,
Yeah.
or Valentine's Day,
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't get out of the work. So I would plan my route around our location,
Yeah.
go deliver flowers, go MC or preach or whatever,
Yeah.
then get back in the van and finish my route. And so that was a fun year. I enjoyed everything about that year.
It was fun.
I loved it.
Because I think people maybe hearing that would go, man, that must have been a hard year. That must have been a tough year. That must have been but you're using the word fun.
I loved every moment about it.
Yeah. Now that sounds like a very, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like an unconditional yes.
Yeah.
Obviously outside of, major stuff, but it seems like a very unconditional yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I feel like especially when I have conversations with people like my age and things like that. It's like, oh, I just need God to do this, or I
Right.
need this person to say this, and then I can give my yes to this.
Yeah.
But that sounds like the opposite.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to a little bit of my upbringing and seeing my family do ministry full time. There was seasons where it didn't look like paid positions,
Yeah.
and it didn't look like 8 to 5.
Right.
It was just something that took up our entire life, our family. We didn't know where the boundaries were, where the lines were. Like, is that a relative or is that a church member? Like, it was just all one big family. And we just kind of took after that. And, you know, Carly and I, we've gotten some things clear. Like, we know who we're going to spend the rest of our lives with, each other, right? And our kids. And we know what church we're going to be part of. And it's Hillsong Church. This is our church. And so that simplifies a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we trust that this is where God has planted us under this leadership, and so it's always been an easy yes.
So from one generation of leadership to
Yeah.
another, in light of everything you've seen God do, in light of everything you've experienced either through college journey and just ministry journey and life journey,
Yeah,
what would you say to, I guess, my generation of leaders as we're coming through?
yeah. I would say keep your heart pure, and guard your heart. Decide that nothing's gonna take you out. Like, someone asked me a question recently, like, what would it take for your heart to be jaded? And I think that's huge in leadership, because you know you're part of a church that made up a lot of people, amazing people, but there's going to be challenges. And I would just say keep your heart pure. Don't become cynical. Don't become negative. Just keep believing the best in people and call that out. And I would just say, like, commit for the long run. Like, I'm playing the long game. I want to be here in decades. And so this is definitely not a sprint. I'm up for the marathon. And I would just say be up for that. And key to that is keeping your heart in the right place.
Yeah.